Hello, Leo. Thank you so much, as always, you guys, for being here, and a very safe and happy holidays to all of you. All right, Leo. So, looking at your third week of December, you pulled Breathe, Impatience, and Commit to Happiness. Some of you may be finding it very hard to have patience in a situation, or patience as far as wanting something to happen. But there's a part of this that talks about being aware of what your coping mechanisms are. And the protection message with Breathe, other than it being about being patient and, waiting, it's basically being in a place of temperance, right? It also talks about not letting laziness get the best of you, and that may be where Commit to Happiness is coming in. And some of you, with impatience, it's like, I need this thing to happen for things to be better. But because it's not, you may be stopping yourself from taking any action toward any other areas in your life, if that makes sense. So Breathe. There's the patience, the waiting, right? Going slowly, wellness and meditation. But the protection message says inertia, laziness, and apathy are signs of not slowing down, but of decay and lifelessness. It says wake up and do something to shake this off. Go outside for some air. So I look at that with Commit to Happiness, and I'm like, oh, okay, so there's this kind of like not going after the things that you want anymore. But yet there's this impatience, but if you force something right now, you may push it away from you. That's what impatience is talking about. But it also says, am I jumping the gun? If I'm honest with myself, am I forcing something? And it says, now is not the time to make a rushed decision. You have made your needs known, now leave it alone. But that may be difficult if you're having to revert to these coping mechanisms that may be, causing you to hold back from taking, the right kind of action, like actively waiting. I almost want to say to you that, the energy of the Three of Wands is where you want to be right now. But Commit to Happiness. True happiness comes from within. It's hard to be happy when everything in life seems to be falling apart. It says when you are facing a crisis, you may look for alternative ways to have more energy or to be soothed. It says pay attention to what you do to comfort yourself. It's that and the protection message from Breathe that I think stands out the most there. But with impatience, right, that could be a lot of different things. It's just this feeling of I need this to change, or I need something else to happen. You have the Three of Pentacles and the Magician, so the ability to use what you have to manifest something, to create something here. And with the Three of Pentacles, right, project, working with other people, laying down plans, how is the situation going to work, but really, that's up to you and how you choose to create, what you're working toward. But if you find yourself procrastinating on something because you think something else should happen first, I think that that's going to be the first sign. But if you're like catching yourself doing things to, feel comforted, make sure you're looking at, whether or not it's a healthy habit, I guess. But I get it, right? Like, it's having to be patient with a situation, but almost being tempted to force something to happen. Ugh, your overall, the Page of Swords, oh boy. So, not a fan, never have been. The Page of Swords to me is half-truths, not getting, the full information. This is the messenger you don't want visiting you. There really isn't good news there or enough news to be able to make a decision, right? So that's why we look at the Page of Swords as the spy. So this could be about, trying to gain information, but you may be hearing things that aren't exactly from the horse's mouth. That would be the best way to put it. But the thing is with the Page of Swords, right, like, it's a pain in the ass, but it's so minor, right? Like, I always look at this and think whatever, this Page of Swords is telling me, I only have half interest in it. So, and there again, the Magician in the past. So we're talking about here you having everything that you need to manifest something in your life. But with the Page of Swords here, we may be talking about a block, or not having, the right information to help you continue to manifest this thing with the Magician, right? But it's all about using what you have available to you. But this is thinking big. There's something big that, we're wanting to have appear in our lives when the Magician shows up. In the present, the Three of Cups, so celebration, having a good time, hanging out with friends, right? But with the Page of Swords, right, this is like gossip. To me, this would be like the cackling hen syndrome. It's funny because it reminds me of the reason why I would never like sit in the break room at work. Like, I don't want to hear it. So in the present moment, right, there may be support coming through for you in what you are, wanting to manifest here. The problem is that the information that you may be getting from people around you isn't, exactly helpful. Or it may be information that, is like a challenge. It's an obstacle, something that you have to deal with. But gossip, right? Like, you can't look past that with those two. Okay, so despite that, in future conditions with the Fool, you're just going ahead with it. Now, the other thing though too is, and I want to see what's going on here if we're talking about, relationships with other people. You may be hearing some things about somebody through the grapevine, so to speak. And it may be, one of those things where you're like, yeah, but I would really rather experience this. So, I'm just going to go ahead and go for this without paying too much attention to what may not be true. Because there's still this need to get more information. Now, for some of you, though, you may be finding out later that there were some things that you didn't know that maybe you don't like. But there's a question of, whether or not this Page of Swords is to be believed. Now, for some of you, absolutely, you could be dealing with people who are, spinning the narrative about you. Because there is, something that you are focused on bringing into your life here, and you just want to jump right into it. Your best path to follow, the Nine of Pentacles. Don't listen to what other people say. That's immediately what I want to say looking at that, because you're talking about independence, right? And feeling secure with yourself. Now, if this is about financial matters, be careful about what risks you might be taking in the future. For others of you, though, when we're talking about just dealing with people and relationships in general, right? Like, be careful about what you're listening to. There is a need to get more information. Now, if you're hearing things that you don't like, right? Like, think for yourself here. And, I also look at this and think, whatever it is that you're jumping into, make sure that you're doing it without any kind of like expectation or attachment. And again, I say that because this is like the happy single person, right? Enjoying their life. Okay. So in your environment, yeah. But the thing is with the Fool here, we're still talking about, you wanting to go ahead and experience this anyway. Like, it doesn't matter, but like right now there's this kind of like disappointment. Now, you know, for some of you, yeah, you may feel like you're leaping into something without like a safety net. And that may be where your advice is kind of coming through here with the Nine of Pentacles, like, you know, make sure that you're secure. But this is sadness. This is disappointment. And it's connected to possibly a relationship. And it may be because of things that you're hearing from other people, but it's like a temporary block. But it's a block, you know, to what you're wanting to manifest here. But this is the big manifestation with the Magician. But it's also, you know, the power that you have to create the experiences that you want to have. It's something really big for you. But there's this sadness and disappointment surrounding the situation, and it may be because of a lack of support. You know, for some of you, this may be finding out that, you know, the people that you thought were your friends are not exactly your friends. But, you know, the thing here, though, I think the most important thing here is to make sure that, you know, you're paying attention to your own safety net and not relying on what other people say or what other people think. You know, if we're talking about relationships falling away in your life, right? Like there's this sadness around it and disappointment. But again, there's this like, it's happening for a reason. It's happening for a reason, right? Like you're not on the same vibration anymore. So when we start to raise that, you know, the people that aren't matching that tend to fall away, and sometimes it can be hurtful, right? But there's sadness and disappointment surrounding either a lack of support or, you know, what is being talked about within a group of people that's directly affecting something that, you know, you're intending to experience. But then, you know, I'm looking at you just like jumping into it anyway. You know, but do you feel like you've taken an unnecessary risk, or do you feel like it's worth taking? You know, and that depends on the information, right? Oh, good God, the Tower, your hopes and fears. Wow. So, you know, this would be fearing that everything falls apart. That, you know, what is happening is too much. It may be, you know, your perspective on it that may be causing it to feel like it's just being completely obliterated. And I'm talking about what it is that you're wanting to experience. You know, the other thing though here too is, you know, with the Tower, right, and looking at the Fool, this may be you, you know, letting go of that kind of like disappointment here and realizing that it may have been built on a false foundation. We're talking about clearing the slate with both of these big time. But it's all about a new experience for you with the Fool, right? But the Tower, that's big. That's really big. For some of you, you may be fearing that you've built something up so much because it's, you know, what you're wanting to come into your awareness or your experience. And then if it doesn't, does that, you know, is that the end all be all, right? Like, how drastically is it going to change you or your situation? And then coming out the Five of Swords, self-sabotage, but, you know, looking at this shit, right? Like, you may finally have enough with dealing with people who are intentionally doing things to get what they want and preventing you from being able to have, you know, your own experience. I don't like the Five of Swords as far as like verbal abuse though too. And the only reason why I say that is because of these two, right? But really with the Five of Swords, it's, and here's the thing, there is the description with that where sometimes we have to do what's necessary to get on top. But if you're on a higher vibration, that's not necessary. You would never have to revert to that type of thinking or acting, right? So I'm looking at this as you having had enough of feeling pain, being let down, being, disappointed by people who are only interested in what they can gain. And it's by any means necessary, even if that means spreading, a little bit of rumors, a little bit of lies. And that's only going to be for some of you. For others of you, right, when we're talking about self-sabotage, it's, taking a risk, but the risk is you having to, act in a way where it's time to do whatever's necessary to get to that place. Again, that's kind of going back to that. I don't know. I'm feeling a couple of different things here with this. Oh, okay. Somebody may want what is technically yours or what you're wanting to create. The Four of Swords, right? Like, that makes sense. Oof. And then Death. All right. And then you got Scorpio showing up. Okay. So with the Ace of Cups here, with the Magician, it makes sense that, this is the big thing that you're wanting to bring into your life. New love, new emotional fulfillment, new spiritual groundedness and understanding. But this is happy. This is happy, feeling, like your cup is full again. But there's, this disappointment here with the Three of Cups, and then you have the Four of Swords where we're talking about no communication and you needing to recover. You may feel like somebody else is interfering with, your new beginning. Like, no, that's mine. That's my creation. That's, what I'm trying to bring in. And somebody else, with the Three of Cups within a friend group, absolutely, it could be somebody that appears to be a friend, but, is actually a backstabber, an enemy, unfortunately. But with the Four of Swords, we're cutting off communication. You're taking some time to recover. And that makes sense with the Five of Cups being there. But then you have Death. This is where I think with the Fool, this to me feels like I'm done with this now. And it's changing you in such a way where you're not going to allow people like that to hold you back from having the experience that you want to have. And I feel like it's happening in a way where there's this like information that's being spread about this Ace of Cups in particular, however that's showing up for you. New life, new relationship, right? Anything that you look at in your life that is what you are wanting to create, that brings you emotional fulfillment and happiness. This one was a little bit rough. So, obviously this isn't going to be for everybody, but I feel like, what's happening here is that you're aware of this, but you don't really care. It's still something that, you're wanting to take a risk on. But then I look back at the Oracle cards and I think, right, you're needing to commit to your happiness and not allow, this kind of situation to affect you to the point where you stop going after that Ace of Cups. But you also don't want to like force a situation, very much in need for just some patience, right? So compassion, sacral chakra, and then, yeah, patience. So, I feel like this is just outside noise that's meant to distract you. Whatever is being talked about and whatever is being said that's causing this feeling of disappointment, it's just a distraction. And with the Tower, yeah, some beliefs that you may have had are going to come crashing down, but it's to clear that garbage out, right? So that you can see the truth. Compassion, having compassion for yourself and others is a difficult thing. But when you understand why a person is acting the way that they are, It really makes it easier for you to deal with rather than being swayed by it, which is why I feel like with the Fool, you're still wanting to experience this regardless, right? But because of the Three of Cups, again, there's this feeling of not only disinformation possibly about you, but about somebody else around you. Now, compassion, I think, is what is going to help you here in unblocking your creative center, which I think is important when you're looking at the Magician coming through, right? You're talking about your passion, your energy, and your ability to create things that may be stuck right now. So having compassion for yourself and what you're dealing with, having compassion and understanding for others if you can, to unblock that ability to, you know, create what you're wanting here. But again, right, patience in the situation. Choosing your path, all is possible. And the narrow pathway, tread thoughtfully. So this is like not veering off the path. It may feel very narrow right now, but it's like if you fall off, then is that wiping out the possibility to have, you know, that experience or that path, right? But if you are choosing a narrow pathway to get to what you are trying to manifest, right, be aware of that too. And I kind of go back to this feeling of like coping mechanisms. But just be careful about the information that you're listening to from other people right now, especially if it starts to make you feel bad. But I think ultimately you're going to realize that this is possibly intentional and intentionally meant to block you from your Ace of Cups.